Helen Sanderson works as an interior designer, therapist, and professional organizer, and is an expert on how our spaces reflect our psyche. She creates beautiful healing spaces that support people to manage the stresses of modern life. She is a recognized authority on mindful design and decluttering and writes regularly for the Huffington Post. Hi, and welcome to Magical Mindfulness. I'm your host, Jools Sinclair, author and creator of See the Beauty, a mindful gratitude program that helps people lead happier lives. I am so thrilled to have a very special guest today to join us on our retreats, who is going to help us create our calm environments, our calm spaces around us. And I feel like this is somebody that I personally need in my life starting today. And I'm just thrilled that she's here. She's coming all the way from London. So as usual, before we start, let's make sure that we arrive listening to our fabulous guest in a state of calm. So make sure you have your favorite beverage. Today, again, I have my peppermint tea, because this smell is just divine. It just like brings a sense of calm. I also have my journal. And if you are following along with your journal for this whole retreat, and I hope that you are, make sure that you have it, because there will be some fantastic tips and suggestions that you'll want to write down. And finally, let's just go ahead and take 3 deep breaths in so that we can begin our session calm and ready. Okay, deep breath in, inhale. Just hold it for a moment at the top of the breath. You can close your eyes and then let it out, exhale. In this next breath in, inhale. Go ahead and think of one thing that you are grateful for today. It could be something that's happened, how you're feeling, how you arrived here, and let it out. And our final deep breath in, take a deep breath in, congratulate yourself for being here and taking the time for you. Hold it at the top of the breath, and then let it out when you're ready. And open your eyes. And we are here with the fabulous Helen Sanderson. Helen, hi.
Hi.
And I am just so thrilled that you're here. I want to go ahead and read some of your bio and let our audience know who you are and what you do. Helen Sanderson is the founder and creative director of Ministry of Calm. She is a space therapist. I just love that. Interior designer, professional organizer, author, and public speaker. With her background in psychotherapy, she's an expert in psychology of space and the design of quiet rooms and well-being environments. Helen speaks regularly at events such as Ideal Home, Mind, Body, Spirit, Grand Designs Live, and 100% Design. She has appeared on BBC Radio, Sky TV, and has been featured in The Telegraph, Financial Times, Mail, Cosmopolitan, Good Housekeeping, and Red. It's just fantastic. There's one quote here I wanted to read too. She also works as a personal declutter coach, dealing with each person's mindset and individual situation, not just their clutter. Helen, welcome to Magical Mindfulness. I'm so thrilled that you're here.
Thank you. Thanks so much for inviting me, and what a brilliant retreat that you're running. It's really exciting.
Oh, thank you so much. I just feel like that you are just adding so much to this, because it's funny. I know that there's probably an older belief and thought that you don't really think too much about your environment, but that's not true, is it? Like, your environment and the space around you is really important.
Absolutely. And I don't know what your mum used to say to you when you were a teenager, but my mum used to say your state of your room is the state of your mind. And even though, as a teenager, I didn't quite like that, it's so true. And I've been working with people for 15 years now, and the state of their home is the state of their mind. And sometimes it's hard to see, but if you need to work with the internal and the external together.
I just love that. And I'm just thinking, no, my mom didn't say that. maybe that's where the beginning of my problem
Okay.
is. And Helen, I have to be honest, see, like, and I've been looking at your website. Your website's fantastic. You
Thank
have
you.
so many cool services, and we're going to dive into everything that you do. But as you're talking about this, right, like inside, there's like a little bit of guilt that is rising up, because I really do have a lot of places that are very cluttered. And I feel like I'll go like on binges where it's like, oh, I can't stand it anymore, you know, and I'll go ahead and I'll do my best to, you know, get rid of it. And sure enough, within a week, it starts coming back. And I'm sure there's like a huge psychology under there. And as you're talking about it, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I don't know. There's just something about this, you know, it's kind of like showing you the state of your mind, but then I'm feeling like, oh my gosh. Is that a common thing that you hear from clients?
Yeah, and it's not always, it's not always as simple as the state of your mind. I mean, so for example, I always say to my clients, some people are really good with numbers, some people are really good with words, some people are really good with people, and not everybody's really good with space. So that's the first thing. Some people just don't have that skill of order and spatial awareness. So this, I don't want people to feel bad about themselves because they've got a cluttered space, because sometimes they just don't have that skill, or maybe they didn't learn that from their parents. Sometimes when I interview people, their parents were very cluttered or very chaotic, and so they didn't get that modeling to learn that skill. So there's other reasons, such as people have ADHD or they're dyspraxic, so they struggle with their space. So it's not always just a psychological problem. There are other reasons, but quite often I find that there are people who are traumatized and they've had something happen in their life. Maybe they've been through a bereavement, maybe they've had some sort of childhood difficulty, and that doesn't get processed psychologically, and then it kind of gets manifested in their home. So if you're thinking about in terms of psychological giant like Carl Jung, and he would talk about your home is like your psyche, he talked about. So he often talked in terms of the psyche and the home being in parallel. So we can go on a journey through our home and actually go on a journey through our psyche. It's really, really fascinating. And he talked a lot about interpretation of dreams and symbols and what they mean. So over the years, I've started to kind of almost read the house.
That's interesting.
As a
That is just
dream,
fascinating.
sometimes when you have a big dream and you say to someone, I had this dream, what does it mean? And there'll be something like your subconscious is trying to communicate something to you through your dream. And I feel really strongly that your home is trying to communicate something to you through your stuff. So it's really fascinating, and sometimes really amazing stories kind of get unraveled when you're doing your decluttering. So it's not all about folding, sometimes it's about unfolding.
That is just fascinating. I don't know. I know a little bit about Carl Jung. I don't know that much. I haven't studied him in depth, but I've never heard of somebody connecting him to your environment in your home. I think that's just fascinating.
Yeah, there's quite a lot of metaphors, because he worked a lot with symbols and metaphors, and there's a lot of metaphors that are very parallel between our home and our psyche. And his whole story is that he had a big dream about this house that he had to build, and he kept building the house, and it was almost like the house represented him building his life and his body of work. So and that you can read about that in his book, Memoirs, Dreams and Reflections. So
Oh, very interesting.
yeah.
Well, I just love that. I just think that's true too. I know. Can you speak a little bit, Helen, about the energy of a space and the energy of your environment? Because everything that you're saying so far is true, and I think we all know that. I think we all know that a messy space kind of leaves us feeling bad, and it's. I always feel bad when I see the clutter. And when things are clean, like when I walk in, for example, and the house somebody's cleaned the house, I'm always like, oh, like it's just like a breath of fresh air. It's like, it's a physical feeling of gratitude and happiness. So what is it about? What is it about that?
So firstly, it's partly, I think about, there's a movie called Inside Out. I don't know if you've seen it.
I haven't.
It's a cartoon movie, and they talk about, it's about the emotions and how the emotions live in your head, and angry and sad, and it's all based around a flight deck. So I kind of think that your home is like your flight deck. It's where you run your life from. Yeah. And it's also the place that you go to recharge. So you go, you come home, you run your life, and then you go out and you do your stuff, and then you come back. And so your home is your base. And as the same with your mobile phone, you have to charge it every day. You have to charge your laptop every day, and your body and your mind need recharging. And to me, the home is like your battery charger. So it's the place that you go home to recharge. Now, if you go into your home and it's all chaotic and cluttered and disorganized and difficult to find things, and you can't get out the door because you've lost something, then it becomes your drain. It's sort of draining your energy rather than supporting and enhancing your life. So that's why I think your home is like your battery charger, and you need to kind of get your home into a place where it can support you so that you can then go out into the world and do your thing. So if you've got so much clutter around, all you're seeing is chaos. So that's reflecting back into your inner state, which is then making you feel chaotic. Right. So if you think about, you want to go on holiday, right? You want to go and sit on a beach or sit on a mountain or look at a beautiful view. And we want to do that because when we see that, it helps us really calm and reflect and find that inner peace inside. If we're going looking to our home for inner peace on a daily basis, and all we're seeing is clutter, it's not going to help us regulate our inner state. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really about, this is a place that you go to recharge. This is a place that you go to re-regulate yourself. So if you, like you say, when you walk into a calm and beautiful home that's just been cleaned, you can let go of your day. You can take your day off. But if you come home and it's all cluttered, you get this. And the more you have that voice and the critic nagging at you, then that's again draining your energy. And I mean, my clients, they say to me, every day I think I must clear out that room. I must sort out that clutter. And it becomes something going on in your mind every day.
That's true. That's exactly it. Because I think nobody, well, except my husband. I think my husband can look at clutter and not even see it or care. But I think most people look at clutter and it bothers them. It bothers me. It's like every time you see it, and it's always like, oh yeah, I should have done that. Yeah, I should have done that. It is a very psychological issue. Yeah. It really is, and I love that metaphor of the recharging, like your computer, your laptop, your phone. You need your home needs to recharge you.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's just fantastic.
Yeah. So then on a kind of like, if you think about a Russian doll, you know, like Russian dolls, and you take one doll out and there's another one inside. So I kind of think about your body is the home of your soul. Yeah, your soul and your spirit lives in your body, and you need to look after your bodies in order to be the home for your soul. And then you need to look after your home in order to be the home for your body and your physical and mental well-being. Right. And then you need to look after your planet so that your home can be looked after. Right. Do you see what I mean? So it's
I love that.
A Russian doll effect of the planet is our home to our home, and then our home is our home to our body, and our body is our home to our soul. So they're all important, and you know, we need to take care of them all.
I love that. You just have fantastic metaphors. You really do. That's a great one.
That's why I like Jung so much.
That is like really great. I saw on your website that, and this is a quote from you, I'm convinced that clutter isn't about things. So what do you think clutter really is about?
So it's going to be different for everybody. But often clutter is decisions that haven't been made. So a lot of people get stuck in procrastination, and they're stuck in procrastination because they're stuck in perfectionism. And that's paralyzing. So, quite often I might say to someone, right, we're going to start decluttering, but we might not be able to get it perfect. It's like,
wow, that must shock them a little bit.
Yeah.
Because they probably think, no, it's going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And then it will start again.
So when you're setting yourself up for perfectionism, that is paralyzing, because, so much of life isn't perfection. So clutter, decisions that haven't been made. Sometimes, like I was saying earlier, it can be a burial mound to some sort of trauma
yes.
that we've had, that we don't want to go there. That's sort of like out of bounds.
Right.
And sometimes that out of bounds area just sort of creeps in. You might have, for example, so I think a lot about the inner child part of ourselves. So if you've got an unhappy child inside, they might just throw things on the floor. So you'll have a sub-personality inside who's just throwing things on the floor, or I'm not going to tidy up, or, so you're living with an inner state that's out of harmony in some way, or some part of yourself is trying to get your attention. And then another aspect of it could be some project or something that we haven't done that's got buried or got forgotten about. So people often say, I think about decluttering every day, and I want to declutter, or I try to do 10 minutes every day, and they'll be doing that for years. And I just think, where's all that energy, talking about clutter, meant to be going? So it seems like sometimes a displacement activity and an avoidance strategy for something like a book or a project or a relationship or something that is got buried and forgotten about.
Right. That's interesting. I wouldn't have ever thought about that.
Yeah.
So you might be using your clutter
absolutely
as to not go do what maybe you want to do deep down, or you should be doing, or
and I've worked with people who have needed to declutter and then actually declutter their house, and that they kind of built themselves in, like cluttered themselves in, and actually the house was the problem, and they actually needed to move on with their life, move on from a relationship, painful divorce or something, that is all held in that house. Right. And so sometimes it's all about letting go of the old chi, or moving on to the new. Sometimes we can get stuck.
Wow. That's just it's just fascinating. It really is.
Yeah.
I know, Helen, that the decluttering is definitely one aspect of your business. Can you talk just a little bit about some of the other aspects too that you've done in the past, and then we could kind of come back to the decluttering, because I have more questions. But I know that, for example, you're very you, like on your website, I just saw that the workplace is like a great place to create like a well-being space, right? And you've helped people do that. And I've also noticed that you've had other projects that I would love for you to just speak about, because I just find it fascinating.
So quite a long time ago, I trained as an interfaith minister. Which, and the basic philosophy of that was many ways, one truth. So there was a growing need for people to have a spiritual experience or a spiritual ceremony, or something that didn't have too much religious doctrine within it. And at that time, people were also needing spaces to do, spiritual contemplative things. So I did a really beautiful project with a hospice in north of England, and they had a very traditional chapel, and yet the demographic of the area was incredibly diverse. So there were people from many different faith backgrounds, and they just felt that it was quite sort of limiting in the sense. So they asked me if I could help them create a space where people could go and contemplate and be mindful and grieve and reflect on life and relatives who were passing. And it was actually it was probably one of my favorite projects that I did. And, creating a space that was very spiritual and beautiful, and actually holding space for people to be with themselves and their grief and stuff like that, without the, you know, with threads of the traditions, but without the dominance of a faith tradition.
Right.
And so that's also then gone into the workplace. So some workplaces have needed places where people could either take time out, or maybe they're a pregnant mum and they need to do something with their breast milk, or maybe they're a Muslim and they need to pray, or maybe they just need to go and meditate before they work. So this whole idea that we can go to work but take our whole being there and balance ourselves, rather than just being a drone that goes to work.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And so creating spaces really that support our whole being. And as I've already said, you know, we talk about the home as a battery charger. Well, sometimes people need to recharge when they're at work.
Absolutely.
And there's been a lot of research about introverts and how introverts are maybe 50% of the population. And so for them, a day at work is really hard. It's really draining on your energy. So to have a place to go and be mindful or meditate and just recharge and do the rest of the day is a really valuable asset to any business or any company.
You've been doing this for a while now, so I'm wondering, do you notice there's a difference in either corporate America, or not America, sorry, the corporate world? Like, are companies more interested in creating like a space for well-being and for their employees? Do you think that's like on the rise?
Absolutely. I mean, when I started 15 years ago, it was a no-no, you know, like we're not going to give that space at all.
Right.
But there's so much has changed over the last 10 or 15 years. And I think that's partly now people work from home. There's a lot more entrepreneurs. And there's a lot more co-working spaces where people want to run their own business, but be in a nicer environment. They don't want to be in an environment that's just so harsh.
Yes.
Yeah. And one of the projects that we did was a very, very harsh office environment that had really hard lights and rows of desks, and it was all grey. And we changed that into a space that was vibrant with different fluid desks and standing desks and different working places, because I think that people are demanding more from their work environment now, because people have more choice. So they don't want to go and be a battery hen sitting at a desk for 8 hours,
right,
pumping out their work and then going home. They want to be able to, like I said, bring their whole person to work.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It really, I was watching a show, and I can't remember which show it was, but it was sort of like this redesign of this teacher's lounge. They went from like I used to be a teacher, and and I'm pretty sure all teacher lounges everywhere in the world are probably the same, where they're just like plastic chairs, this old coffee machine in the back, just really horrible places. And I always felt that was kind of, the teachers would gather and kind of complain there, but it wasn't like a warm place. But anyway, the show kicked up the teacher lounges. It's like they had recliners, it was all designed beautifully, and the teachers walked in and it was like, wow. And I could only imagine that, a workspace would just be like that, where you could go and take your break. It would just be like night and day. You would just feel like you're saying recharged after you take your break, instead of, I got to get back to it, and you're not really recharged at all.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's also the symbol, again, to go back to the symbolism. What does the message that gives you? If you give a teacher a really beautiful space to sit and relax in between their breaks, that's really giving a message that we value you.
Yes.
And when someone's valued, they're much more likely to do well at their job. They're much more likely to flourish and blossom and give more than if they don't feel valued.
Yes,
so
it's like a ripple effect, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So a space can be an asset. It really can. A beautiful space that is nourishing to people is really an asset.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm thinking right now, my daughter just popped into my mind, and she really loves design and putting things together. And the first thing she does, and she's been moving offices lately, the very first thing she does is just redo the office. And she just, and I walk in and I'm always like, oh my gosh, because I would never think of the things, she has it's just beautiful. So what I'm asking, I guess, Helen, is like if let's say you're working in a place that doesn't really care about your, I don't want to say it doesn't care about your well-being, but they're not going to do anything. Are there things that you can do? You know, what would some of the things that would be helpful, maybe like in either your cubicle, like, you know, should you always bring like flowers in, or should you have like one of those little, you know, fountains? Do you have any like, you know, quick ideas just off the top of your head, what people could do for their workspace?
Yeah, I mean, I would say have a plant, have something
Yeah.
living, something green. Green is really calming color. So if you can, if you're not somebody that kills them, you know, if you're not good with plants, you can get a succulent. I can see you've got a
Yes, I
one
want
there,
to
exactly.
point out my cactus here. This is my, they actually call it roadkill cactus. I'm in Tucson, so I'm trying to have like a little Tucson experience over here in the corner most days.
Okay.
But it doesn't need much water, and
Exactly, yeah.
it's
So
flourishing.
if you're a low maintenance type of person, you can go for something like that. But then the other thing is really about, you know, tidying your desk. You know, so, and I talk to people about you know, maintaining their home, which I can go into a little bit in a minute. But you know, the thing is about if you can set your desk so that when you come in the morning, you've got a clean slate, you're going to inspire yourself much more to want to work. And quite often people tell me that they're quite stressed at work. There's so much work. There's emails coming in all the time. You know, so if you go into work and you've got this sense of overwhelm because your desk is piled high and it's chaotic, it's then it's going to make your mind go like that. You've got a lot of visual noise and then internal noise and then the noise coming from your employer, that it's kind of compounding the problem. So, and then you'll have the critic going, oh, well, you know what your boss thinks of your desk.
Right,
So, you
right.
know,
Yeah.
so really it's really about maintenance. And so the thing about maintenance, and you'll love this metaphor, I hope, is that I think about the home is like a garden. So some people have a really overgrown garden. So you can't even get into some rooms because it's completely overgrown. And so the first thing that you have to do when you go into that garden is do the weeding, right? So
Right.
you've got to go in and you've got to cut out the brambles. You've got to cut, you know, mow the lawn, cut it all down, chop back some of that tree. It's about getting rid of the rubbish, the stuff that you don't need, that's overgrown. And then underneath that, then you start to see see what you've got, because you didn't see before. And maybe you've got a beautiful little rose bush who's been suffocating under all those weeds. And then you can do the fun bit, which is the planting plan, which is like deciding where I'm going to put my daffodils and where I'm going to put my decking. And so you then redesign and find homes for things. So people say everything has its place, a place for everything, which is really the fun bit. The hard bit is the weeding. The fun bit is the finding homes for things. And then what happens? If you don't maintain it, it's going to grow back to brambles. Okay. So there's three key stages of any decluttered project. The first one is the weeding, then it's the finding homes for things. And so if I say to you, can I have some scissors, or where's the tape measure? You know exactly where it is, and so you know how to put it back. But then after that, when you use the scissors or the tape measure, you put it back. You put it back in its home.
Right.
You do the washing up at the end of the day. You make your bed, that sort of stuff around maintenance. Or if you're at work, you clear your desk so that you can start your day feeling like you've got the energy to deal with it. You deal with yesterday, and you deal with today. So I always think that if you have a cluttered home, or you have left the washing up till the next day, or you say, oh, I'll do that tomorrow, it's a bit like you can't save because you're in debt. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It does.
So you're always paying off yesterday's debt, and you can't actually start saving today. So you need to try and get yourself into a place where you've managed today, and then you've got the energy to live this day. And even if you're really tired, do your best to try and kind of leave your house or your home or your desk in a good state, so that the next day you've got the energy to deal with that day and not to deal with yesterday.
Oh, I just love that. I love that. I love that metaphor. And I love, Helen, how you are just bringing this so much deeper, because I think there are people, probably the majority of them, that just say, oh, that's just messy,
Yeah.
but there's so much more behind it.
Yeah.
And that tip about clearing your desk off, making sure everything's in place before you leave so that you can walk into your new day is huge.
Yeah.
It's just huge.
And it is, the best way to think about it is about money, because when you talk about money, people really get that.
Yes.
Like, you can't save if you're paying off yesterday's debt. And it's the same with, if you don't maintain your home and you're always clearing up from yesterday, then you can't ever actually make your home into this lovely battery charger that charges and supports you, because you're always dealing with yesterday. Right. So that often means that if you want to get yourself from there back to zero, you need to do a really intensive burst of project to get yourself back. But then it's about maintaining, a bit like the garden, you might need to get some people around and cut it all back and make it beautiful. But once it's beautiful again, a little bit of weeding every day or watering the plants is fine. It's fun,
and that's the key. And that's the component I feel like really helps me with my breakthrough, because like I said, I'll go through these periods where, we can do it. We can get all the clutter off. I can put things away. I can throw things out and go through old mail that's been piled up, papers. You have a whole long thing on your website about papers, which I love, because the mail and it just gets out of hand if you're not really on top of it.
Exactly.
And I'll do that. And then it slowly the weeds start coming back, and I'm not noticing it, I think. And then suddenly I'm in the same place. And I noticed too, Helen, maybe you probably have this with your clients, but I noticed like certain areas, it's like an energy almost. It's like the same areas will attract, like the same table will attract clutter, where like another one won't. I don't know why that is. I just.
So that's what I call, the homeless corner.
Yeah, the homeless corner. I love that.
Because that's where all the things end up that you don't know where they go, or you don't want to deal with.
Yes.
So they just pile.
Yes.
So really, and then that's it. Clutter is a decision that hasn't been made. So you haven't made a decision about opening the mail and dealing with it, or putting it in your in tray, or you haven't put that away. So it's decisions that haven't been made, or actions that haven't been followed through. And so one of the things that I would often recommend around, if you have a homeless corner, is to put a plant there.
Oh, interesting.
Or a sculpture, or fill that space with something beautiful. Because otherwise, once you clear it, what's happened is your mind has then kind of almost like taken an unconscious picture of that. So it's very difficult to change it, which is why we go into redesigning and completely changing the home and the room around, so that you can change that whole picture that you've got in your head. It's much harder to change it when you're still in the same place. So you want to try and put something there that changes the way you relate to the space. Because
that
if
is
you
so
relate to it
interesting.
in the same way,
that is like really interesting to change it. So when you go in, if you have like a client who calls and says, I need help, organizing my house, and I've got a lot of clutter, do you actually, like you're saying, is that like one of the things you guys do, where you will change the space so that they're in a new mindset?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a bit like, so say you've just been through a relationship breakup and you feel really crap about yourself. People go out and they get their hair done, or they get a makeover, or they change their style or something, or they lose some weight. You know what I mean? So then you relate to yourself differently. But if you stay the same, you stay in the same mindset, you stay in the same way of thinking or seeing the world. So one of the things that I always do, if I can, it's not always possible, but is to change the layout of the space. You're releasing the chi, you're changing someone's relationship, and then when they come into it, it will be before Helen and after Helen. So it will be, the space and how it flows will be completely different to how it was before. And then the hope is that then that inspires somebody to keep up the maintenance and to keep a new relationship with that space. But again, we're not trying to be perfect here, because we're all human. And, if we set up perfection, then that sets up failure, which isn't, we're just trying to
Right.
get a little bit better. You know, there might be times when you can't water your garden and a couple of plants die, but you can still, you know, plant some more plants and keep mowing the lawn and keep maintaining it. You just don't want to go back to the big bramble.
Right, right. And I love that. It's like we're not looking for perfection. That's such, I think that's probably such a key.
Yeah.
Ellen, does like habit play into this? I'm just thinking that, for example, this online retreat is 21 days, right?
Mhm.
And my hope with that is that after, you know, joining us for each day for 21 days, that, you know, research shows that that develops a habit, and it will be a habit of mindfulness, whether or not, you know, you're thinking about gratitude in this particular program and mindfulness and the things that we're talking about. So I know that you can change habits. I'm just wondering, do you find that your clients, like sometimes it's just a habit, you know, that, and I'm sure there's psychology behind the habits too, but it's like a habit that they need to change. And in other words, like a mindfulness where they need to, like, instead of just bringing the mail in and throwing it on the table, they need to be a little bit more mindful of that. And like, why don't I just take care of this?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So some of it's like changing the habits that you have.
Absolutely. So when I talked about the weeding and then the planting plan and then the maintenance side of it is all about the habits. So it's about changing habits.
Right.
It's about putting habits in place. I even say to my clients, you know, you have house rules for your kids. You could need house rules for yourself, you know. So give yourself 3 rules. You know, I make the bed in the morning. I do the washing up before I go to bed. I put my shoes away, you know, whatever they are, and just work on developing those habits. And then once you've mastered them, take on another one. So it's definitely about strengthening and building habits. That's so true. And like I said at the very beginning, some of us didn't get that modeling. They didn't get parents that were showing us how to do those things. So teaching yourself a new habit, like how to even eat well or how to exercise, takes effort.
Right. And especially in the beginning, right? But then it becomes easier and easier if you just start in the habit. After you get, and I know that, like I said, the research shows after that, those 21 days, you've already started training your brain for it.
Yeah. So if you've chosen 2 or 3 habits, then that's your mindfulness practice.
Right.
So, you know, did I make my bed today? No, I didn't. What happened? Where was I? Was I being present? Did I just get up out of bed and run to work? Can I slow myself down and breathe and just, you know, be here, be present, and just be present to this one task? So that is really where the mindfulness comes in, is in the maintenance stage of the work, maintaining your presence to your home and also to yourself, because a neglected home is a neglected self. It really is, you know, a mirror of two. So the more you're present to you, the more you're present to your home, the more you're present to you. And so it mirrors and echoes back.
I just love that. I think that's just so profound. I really do. I, you know, every morning I get up and I have a practice that I do, and I include it in gratitude. I like to do like a little qigong. I do a few other things, but because I want to start my day on the right path. And I started doing this a while back, but I'm going to add making my bed because I can see that this could be a wonderful mindfulness exercise, isn't it? And it will just, you know, like I'm going to just be honest here. There's a lot of days I don't make my bed. I'm like jumping out of bed, you know, thinking, and I love how you're saying it helps you slow down and be present.
Exactly. Slow down and be present and deal with the day, so that when you come to go to bed, how nice is it to come home to get into a made bed? What's the message that's giving to you? Is that I care about you.
It really is. It's like so special. And even just the physical act of making the bed, I can see you just slow it down, you know, like put the sheets on. I mean, this is just wonderful. This is a great,
and it's true, you know,
I'm going to add this in starting today.
And there are things that we all do, you know, like I might come in and take my shoes off and leave them under the sofa, or I might come in, you know, and then there's clutter of shoes everywhere, or, you know, just becoming aware of what are the habits that I do that are unconscious, so that I can just say, actually, do I want to do that? Maybe I can just slow down and say, you know, there's a shoe place and I'm going to just take the time to put my shoes there. Then they're in their place. They don't aggravate me. They don't aggravate my partner. And, you know, all is well. So it's about really taking care of yourself.
Really, I love that. At the bottom, this is really self-care, which is like an interesting and really wonderful way of looking at this. It's self-care. Taking care of your house is self-care.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful, Helen. That's just wonderful. I just want to like look over my notes and make sure that I got everything. I know we're going to be doing a meditation.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure all my questions got answered. I think they have. We talked about the workplace. So did you want to mention your kit before we do the meditation?
Yeah. So I'll just mention one thing about the self-care is that a lot of people, when they contact me because they've got into a slide and it's overgrown garden, they always say, I feel overwhelmed. I don't know where to start. And I feel ashamed.
Yes. Yes.
And so there's such a thing about if you're neglecting your home, people know that they're neglecting themselves, and there's a sense of shame around that. So really, you know, self-esteem is a really tricky thing. It's very difficult to kind of rebuild your self-worth, but you know, you can do that by just literally doing simple things around the house and sorting that out. It gives yourself the message that you're worth it. Yes. So just a little bit on that, you know, people should feel ashamed because they know that deep down that they're neglecting themselves, and you can turn that around tomorrow by just doing simple self-care activities. So
if you were giving some tips, how long would you give for like that initial step, that first step when you walk into the garden and it's full of weeds? Like, should you just go like in a big blast for, you know, 4 hours or 5 hours and keep working until it's done? Or would you suggest, you know, taking it like an hour a day for a week or something?
Personally, I think you should make it into a project. Mm-hmm. I think you should set yourself a dedicated piece of time. So how long that is depends on how much clutter there is.
How many weeds are out there?
Yeah. So take 2 days off from work and dedicate yourself, because once you've got everything out and started, you know, creating chaos and sorting things through, you're not going to want to do it for 10 minutes a day. You want to just clear the weeds. You know, if you started weeding that garden 10 minutes a day, it will have grown back by the time you finish it. So you want to just get a team, and get it in. So you're asking me about the kit.
Yes.
I just sort of say, here's my little kit, and it's a set of cards.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah.
Can you show us a few others? That one says keep it.
What's that one? Donate it. Recycle. So basically, there you go. In there's a set of cards, and there's a book, and in the book it gives my methodology on how to use the kit. So really, when I talked earlier about clutter is a set of decisions that haven't been made, this is a system that helps you make decisions. Okay. And the whole thing about the kit is that it's a practical tool for a practical problem. This isn't something that you sit on the sofa and read and say, you know, many of my clients say, oh, I've read this book and I've read this author and I've read that. And, you know, it's all very well reading, but you actually need to do it. This is a task about doing. So that's why I've made this product, which is a practical thing that you use while you're decluttering through the weeding process. Right. And
it just looks fabulous, Helen. Yeah, I have to say that it looks amazing. I love it. I love it.
And there's little tips on the back of each card, and they stand up.
Oh, they stand up. That's it.
Or you can hook them on the back of a chair or wherever. But the thing is that I want to get across about this is that we wanted this to be a really beautiful product, because I think people, when they've got into a state of clutter, they've lost the beauty. They've lost that sense of beauty and wonder at their home. And so, you know, some people have said, oh, you know, I've got your kit and it sits on the shelf. And I'm like, well, if it sits on the shelf and it reminds you that you can have a beautiful home, then that's good.
Right.
But it would be even better if you used it. But it's really, you know, I wanted to make it beautiful so that people could reconnect. And I talked earlier about the, you know, our desire to go to the beach or to sit on a mountain to find that sense of beauty. So this was really an unconscious message that I wanted to give to people, that they can recreate that beauty for themselves in their home.
I love that. It's just fantastic. And you can find that kit on Amazon, right?
You can find it on Amazon and on my website, helensanderson.com.
Oh, excellent. And we'll have everything down below on the page. Helen, it's just been fantastic. I just feel like I've learned so much, and it's also been really inspiring. I feel like really, we're going to stop after I'm done with the interview. I'm going to go look around at the weeds.
Yeah. I'm going to go and do some weeding.
I'm going to do some weeding. I just love that. Yeah. So can you lead us in a meditation?
Yeah.
And do you do meditations with your clients? Is that how you start your sessions? Or
so in the kit, in the book, of the step one, the 6 steps, step 1 is formulating a goal and an objective. So it's a bit like, for some people, that weedy garden is a really scary place to go. So sometimes when you're going into a scary place, you need to know why you're going there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I encourage people to sit and meditate and to find 3 key goals or objectives about what they're going to do, why they're doing this project. So it might be something like, you know, I can invite friends around for coffee and not feel ashamed of my home. Or I can empty out that spare room and start that creative project, you know, start my business or start painting, or I'm going to empty out that spare room and I'm going to adopt a child or do something, you know.
Yeah.
That's really, if you can really locate your intention and why you're doing it, when it gets difficult, you can look back at that. And I encourage people to put their goals on the wall, and it helps to remotivate you when you hit that really difficult wall.
I love that. And that's just part of the process, right? There will be times when you do hit that difficult wall.
That wall. Yeah. And so the other thing about the kit is that you can use it with a friend. Sometimes people need a bit of support. So it's designed so that you can use it yourself or with a friend and get them to help you, keep you motivated, keep you focused. Because often people are like, oh, I'm going to sit here and read this letter, and off they go. Right. And the friend can help you if you read the book together.
Yeah, that's a great idea to have like a buddy, because a lot of times for anything you want to change in your life, you know, you can get pumped up, you know, like I'm very excited right now, but you have to be able to sustain it. So if you have some sort of accountability, that helps.
And the other thing is that we've got a little booklet that we give away, and it talks about the 7 mistakes that people come across in their declutter project. So that's another helpful tip that we're going to offer for people today.
Oh, excellent, Helen. Excellent. And we could talk more about that too after the meditation, because I want to make sure our audience definitely gets that. I think this is just for everybody. Everybody needs this. That's fantastic. Okay, I'm ready if you are if you're ready.
Yeah. Okay. So if you want to just close your eyes, everybody, close your eyes. And I want you to just sort of feel your feet on the floor and connect to your breath. And breathe. Just take yourself back to this morning where you woke up in your bed, wherever that was. And just look around the room and see what you see. And then slowly just get out of your bed and do what you need to do in the morning. Have your stretch and get dressed and make your bed. And then we're going to go on a little trip. And so if your bedroom is in the basement, you're going to be going up the stairs. And if you're sleeping in the top of the house, you might be going down the stairs. Or if you're sleeping on the same level, you'd just be walking towards the ground level exit door of your house. So you've got yourself dressed and you're walking down or up the stairs and you're walking towards this door. So as you walk towards the door, you're just getting ready to go outside. So you reach for the door and you go through the door. And as you step over the threshold, you're stepping now into a garden. And as you look around the garden, what do you see? Do you see a beautiful garden? Do you see a garden that needs some care and some love? Do you see a garden that is half nice and half not so nice and kind of could be better? Do you see a garden with potential? And then I want you to visualize a team. So you've got some people who are going to come to the garden gate in a minute, and they're going to help you with your garden. So maybe they're going to help you do some weeding. Maybe they're going to help you do some redesigning. Maybe they're going to help you just do some sprucing, some planting some bedding plants, make it look more beautiful. So you walk over to your back gate of the garden and let your team in. Now you might have a team, you might need a really big team because you might have a really big lot of weeds that need to be dug out, or you might have just a couple of people. But invite them in, welcome them into your garden, and let them know that you're really pleased and grateful that they're there to support you today. And let them know that you couldn't do this without them and that you really need their support. And then give them instructions about what you'd like them to do. So your job is to direct them to help you to sort out this garden. So give them all instructions and set them to work. And then you can take a seat and watch them and guide them throughout the day. And for some of you, maybe one of your team are sitting and telling you about different plants and which plants would grow where and how you could redesign the garden and which direction the sun is. And some people are going to give you different bits of advice and different bits of help. So your job is just to enjoy the support that you're receiving today and to nurture and nourish your team. So nurturing and nourishing them with gratitude, cups of tea, drinks of water, and giving them guidance, because a team needs guidance. So as we're going through, day is moving on and lots of work has been done under your guided eye. And as the day's coming to an end, you're in a position to say thank you to them and let them out of the back gate. You might have a list of plants that you've needed to buy. You might have a big pile that needs to be burned. You might have, your team might have even taken the rubbish away. I mean, could be a brilliant team. So thank your team and lock your back gate, and then turn around and walk back to your house. And it's been a really busy day. And even though you've been sitting there guiding and instructing and listening and learning, you're actually quite tired. So you're going to head on back to your bedroom, going back to your bedroom, up the stairs or down the stairs or on the same level. And you go back into your room and you find yourself with a lovely made bed that you made earlier on in the morning. And you get undressed and you snuggle up in bed and you congratulate yourself for dealing with that really difficult project that you've been putting off all of this time. So slowly and gently just coming back to your breath, taking a few deep breaths, feeling your feet and hands and buttocks on the seat, and slowly opening your eyes and coming back to this time and this space.
Oof. Ellen, that was fantastic.
Great.
That was like, I feel so relaxed. I'm so glad I have my team. That was a metaphor, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The team is me, isn't it?
It might be you. It might be the fact that some people find it hard to ask for help. So asking for help is good too.
You know what I found in that I'm super relaxed. I feel like that was just wonderful. It really was. I found thinking about the team, it was nice to have like somebody for every, like it sort of organized it a little bit when you were talking about that, you know, like you're going to have this person do this and this person do this. And of course that's sort of what we do, because someone like me, I feel like that's where I kind of struggle with. It's like my mind just doesn't work. Like you were saying, I don't think I'm just naturally an organized person. I think I'm like the other way. So that, I don't know, something about having the team, your team come in and you're going to do this and you're going to do this and you're going to do this really helped have like a little breakthrough there for me. It really did.
And also just wanted to say that very often creative people aren't very ordered, you know, and that's why creative people often have a management team if they're lucky, you know, but they have, that's, you know, there is often a team, and creative people have lots of ideas and they don't very good at finishing projects and they can be quite scattered. So a lot of my clients are very creative, and so employing a team of people to help you with the things that you're not so great at is you know, it's not rocket science. It's been done for years. You know, that's why great musicians have PAs and managers, and so you know,
I love that you mentioned that, you know, because I think sometimes women especially sometimes feel a little like guilty if they need help like that, you know, like they kind of like are a little shy about, I have a housekeeper, you know, or I have somebody who comes in, like it's an interesting thing that you're mentioning, because you can absolutely get help for it. You don't have to do it all.
You don't. You know, there's some things that you need to learn to do for yourself that nobody's going to do. Nobody's going to brush your teeth for you, but you know, but some things you can delegate, and that's okay. Yeah.
Right. Oh, that's a wonderful thing to think about. The team. Brilliant. I don't have to be the team. I can get the team. Okay. Oh, Helen, this has just been so fabulous. Can we talk before we close? Can you talk a little bit about the free gift that you're offering? And we will have a link to it right here at the bottom of the page, because I know everybody's going to want to get this. This is just so wonderful. It has.
So it's really, in my years of experience, the 7 biggest mistakes that I found that people make when they're doing a declutter project. So help them identify them. And I think you know, as we're talking about mindfulness here, mindfulness and awareness is key. So when you can spot that maybe you're going into denial a little bit, or you're distracting yourself, by having an awareness of those things, you're more empowered to make different choices. So the free gift, like I said, it's a little ebook for people to read. And I'm also running a webinar, a free webinar on the 24th of October. And there'll be a link to that there. It is part of a bigger workshop, but if people are interested in my work and they want to do that webinar and get a little bit of a flavor of what it's like working with me, or learn a little bit more, then there'll be a link to that webinar on there too.
Oh, just fantastic, Helen. So there's going to be two things on this page. At the bottom, definitely get Helen's free gift, and definitely sign up for her webinar, because that is just going to help you declutter your house and also your life, and just live better. It's just for better living. Helen Sanderson, thank you so much for being here. It's just been delightful, inspiring, and educational. It's really been a great hour here. I love it. I loved everything you said. And like I said, I just see weeds everywhere, and I'm gonna, after we say goodbye, I'm gonna go tackle some of it.
Exactly. And that gardens need constant love and care and attention, as do your home. That's why we talk about a garden, because homes
that metaphor is so brilliant, because people in the garden, you can totally, of course, everyone can kind of relate to the garden, like you're saying. Everyone knows weeds and flowers, right? And then your home is like that too.
Yeah. And just to quickly say that if you want to get my home declutter kit, that's on Amazon and
your website too.
Yeah.
So it's just fantastic. Thank you, Helen. Thank you so much.
Lovely. Thank you for inviting me. It's been such a pleasure.
It's been great. Thank you.